did she say about Benachi? Okay. That's about how many paces we thought it was, but it's definitely significantly smaller than Beyweth, but bigger than Janana. Okay, that's good to know. It's good to know. The distance between Solira to Benachi. Okay, that lines up with what we thought as well. Oh, I thought that was a much shorter distance. Really? Where was that other school? He said that was much shorter. Oh, hello. Welcome. Sorry, I didn't hear you coming in. You gave me a bit of a fright. I don't know if you saw the giant sign on the front door, but we're actually closed right now. Oh, it was, you don't read that. I knew I needed to get that translated into common. I'm sorry. I hope it's not too much of an inconvenience for you, but we are closed now. The market of Ebonwatch is starting to die down, which means those of us who actually need concentration to get work done can finally actually concentrate for once in the day. So, this is not time to be entertaining customers. This is time to get some of my work done. So, I would be happy to help you with any sort of map skills or purchasing anything that you might need from a map maker tomorrow when you return. Your party's leaving tonight. Of course they are. Okay, alright. Well, sure. Go ahead, take a look around. Please try not to touch anything too much, unless you're going to purchase it. You see, all of these maps take a very, very long time to make, and some of them are honestly quite valuable, so I would appreciate it if we didn't get any oils from your fingers on the actual maps. You humans have quite oily fingers, so if you wouldn't mind just being respectful of the maps. Now, is there something that I can help you find in particular? A map of the Sahar Pass. Really? You don't happen to be traveling through the Sahar Pass starting tonight, do you? Okay. Well, this must be your first time traveling through the pass, right? Yeah. I see, there's a problem with mapping the Sahar Pass. How much do you know about the actual map-making process, if you don't mind me asking? Not much. That's kind of what I thought. You see, a lot of people, they just sort of take advantage of the fact that you can go somewhere and just buy a map of a certain city or a certain region or something like that without thinking about the process of actually creating that map. You see, it's quite a complex art. And, of course, a map is only as good as it is accurate. And there are definitely some difficulties in getting perfectly accurate maps. You see, we need to know, the distance between things in an accurate way. And so, usually, cartographers like myself, we pay people to walk from one place to another and record their steps. And then we sort of take an average distance of someone's gait, and that's how we determine, how far away things are. But you also have to, hire somebody who understands angles and things like that and can take a good recording of places. Now, there are some cartographers like myself who like to travel to those places themselves, but, I can't be everywhere all at once, especially when my funding gets cut, unfortunately. But the problem with mapping places like the Sahar Pass is that they are very, very dangerous. And sometimes you hire people to walk through them, and you never see them again. So I do not actually have an incredibly detailed, accurate map of the Sahar Pass. we call it the Sahar Pass, but in the ancient language of this region, Sahar means shifting. Yes, the shifting pass. People say that the sands actually get up and walk around sometimes, changing the terrain of the pass on a moment's notice. Now that's probably just legends. I wouldn't worry about it yourself, but suffice it to say, legends are created for a reason. The Sahar Pass is rather unpredictable, and thus rather difficult to actually map. So I could show you more of a broad map of the region of the wilds, at least what I've been able to deduce from my studies and my travels, and people that I've paid to do research. If that interests you. Otherwise, I could show you. I have some other maps of different cities in the wilds as well. I don't presume that you would like a map of Ebonwatch. I mean, it's not that large of a little city here, so maybe you wouldn't need that seeing as you're leaving. Where are you traveling to, if you don't mind me asking? Beyweth. That's sort of what I thought. If you're taking the Sahar Pass, it can be rather treacherous, but there are other ways to get to Beyweth that are even more treacherous. You've heard that before, have you? Has anyone actually told you why? Oh, would you like to learn? Right here, let me show you a little bit from my map of the wilds here. You'll see why going through the Sahar Pass, as dangerous as it may be, is actually your best bet. Alright, here we are. Pardon the mess. We've got some things sitting around. As I said, I wasn't really expecting customers right now, but that's alright. Okay. Here we have our map of the wilds. Now, as I said, this is as accurate as I can possibly make it with the information that I have been given, but there are definitely some spots that are a little less labeled than other places, because it is a little bit difficult, as I said, to find out what actually is there. But I can show you what I have. Hopefully this will at least give you a bit of an idea of what to expect. So here, this line is the border to the kingdom of Maladia. Have you ever been there? Oh, that's where you're from, alright. Well, then I won't have to explain what goes to the north of this map, then. You have the little city of Theyseekherthere here, the ruins over here, known as Blightthorn. Then over on this, in the very northwest corner of the map, is the beginning of the Empire of Kanchakar, a very large, also somewhat obscure place, but not quite as obscure as what we collectively call the wilds. Now, I'm not sure how much you know about the history of this place, but according to legend, as well as some archaeological evidence, there used to be hundreds or probably thousands, maybe tens of thousands of years ago, there used to be one giant empire that ruled this entire region, and apparently it used to be much more fertile than it is now. All we have left of this kingdom, this empire, is a few different ruins of old cities and some of the different artifacts that we've discovered from there. People like your friend Zenith have been trying to piece together what happened to that empire. No one really knows whether it was war, whether it was disease or perhaps some sort of environmental changes that led to the downfall of this kingdom, or whether it was something a bit more sinister or related to magic. No one really knows. We do have at least a little bit of evidence from different ruins. Now here, this is where you find yourself now, in the little city of Ebonwatch. Now, Ebonwatch is relatively close to the north of what we call the Wilds, and so it is very often a hub for merchants and travelers who may be going from the places further south up to the kingdoms to the north, or vice versa, coming from places up here down to the south. Ebonwatch is mostly a trade city, but also a place that you can find whatever you might need for traveling, such as camels instead of the horses, or, proper gear, maps, such as this place. Anything like that you can usually find in Ebonwatch. Now here, this will be your route to the south, through the Sahar Pass. This is a very rocky canyon that leads down here, closer to the city of Beyweth. Now, this pass is, because it is traveled so often, is often also a target of bandits, of other, less than wholesome folk. There are definitely groups of sand pirates who like to traverse this area as well. But there are also different plateaus, some caverns, and of course lots of creatures who like to live in the caves and areas around here as well. So it is rather treacherous. But I think you will see it as probably your safest bet, because were you to go around the pass this way and avoid the Sahar Pass, you would find mostly just an empty expanse here. Lots and lots of sand. No hope for things like wells, water, cities, anything like that. And unfortunately, you would also be traveling right through the regions of the Sand Dragons. This is mostly where they keep their home. Now, this is also around the ruins of Nihelm here. This is one of the larger cities from the Empire that archaeologists and also treasure hunters have found. At one point, it was a very, very large, very bustling, beautiful city. Possibly not unlike the city of Beyweth now, but that was long, long ago. Again, no one knows exactly what happened to the city of Nihelm, but there have been, certain artifacts found that have told us a little bit about their culture. They apparently worshipped a very powerful deity of the sun in Nihelm, as well as a deity of the night. Those were sort of their two deities. I believe it was, a man and a woman, a king and a queen that ruled the skies different times. Then you also have this giant pit, I suppose you could say. A crevice, a cavern, whatever you would like to call it. Whatever it is emanating with some sort of very dark, magical energy. And no one has been able to get close enough to tell us why that is, or where it came from. It's hypothesized that it may have something to do with what happened to the city of Nihelm, and perhaps also the ruins of Hamala down here. But we've never been able to get close enough and survive to actually find out. So, unfortunately, there's not much known about that, except that it is very dark and very dangerous, riddled with peril. So I would not suggest going this way, even if you did skirt closer over here to avoid this giant pit. You would still be in the territory of the sand dragons, and they are not to be messed with. Now, if you didn't want to go this way, and you wanted to instead go to the east over here, then you would be traveling through a mountain range over here. Very rocky hills and larger mountains and cliffs and plateaus. And this is also the home to a very powerful city called Zugol. And Zugol is mostly ruled by orc kind. And also some lizard folk, I suppose, and other goblins and things like that. But mostly it is the orcs that have created the city here. Now, there are lots of misconceptions about orcs. They are not all sinister and dark and evil and vicious and things like that people like to talk about. Unfortunately, the city of Zugol is, well, it's a little closer to that stereotype. It is a society based on physical strength, based on ferocity of fighting. Whoever rules Zugol is the most powerful fighter. That is how they have established their society. And it is not a place for outsiders, especially one, if you don't mind me saying, of, perhaps smaller stature than that of an orc. They would possibly eat you for lunch. They might also make it a game to hunt you for prowess, things like that. Anyway, Zugol is not a place that you want to go unless you are specifically invited there and have a guide that is an orc or a lizard kind or a native of one way or another. Now, there also is another very large chasm here, sort of by the edge of the canyon and leading into the mountains. This one, apparently, scholars have told us that it was created by some sort of very large earthquake that happened, again, who knows when, many, 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 many years ago. But it is also very treacherous, and getting into the mountains is very difficult, so it would be difficult to travel through the mountains without having to pass through Zugol and the region around that is heavily patrolled. And even if you were able to evade the patrollers of Zugol, the mountains here are quite unforgiving and treacherous. And of course, there are many different caverns and caves and secret places where other beasts might hide. Other sand dragons or things even a bit more treacherous. So, unfortunately, the way to the east of the Sahar Pass is also not particularly a safe journey. Now, your only other option, I suppose, might be to travel all the way to the west over here, through these plateaus and other rocky regions, down through the city of Jessu. Now, Jessu is very hard to get to. As you can see from the map here, this is not entirely accurate to all of the different plateaus and places around there. It is surrounded by, again, very rocky, unforgiving terrain. But the people of Jessu are very stoic. This is a place that was established by refugees from Kantakar back hundreds of years ago, and they hold with them quite a code of honor. They worship a sun god that is possibly similar to what was worshipped in Nihelm, although it is likely not the same because this was brought from the people of Kanjagar when they traveled south. They are a bit more open to newcomers, but it is very, very treacherous to get there. And as you can see, it is a very long way out of the way, because you would have to go from Ebonwatch all the way here, and still probably have to go a bit north to skirt around Sand Dragon territory, through all of these rocky plateaus to get to Jessu. And then you would have to go south through their very specific paths, probably also hiring a guide from Jessu to get down to here. And then make your way to Janana here, and then back east to get to Beyweth. It is a very, very long journey, so it is much faster to just go through the Sahar Pass. Again, this journey, even though it is long, it is also still plagued with dangers as you get into these plateaus. Anytime that there are structures like this in a barren land like the wilds, you can almost guarantee that there will be creatures there that may not be friendly. Let's just put it that way. So, unfortunately, the Sahar Pass is likely your best bet to get to Beyweth. Now, once you get to Beyweth, this is a rather central location, and from here you could hire sand ships to go almost anywhere around here. To Janana, to the River Kala, and the smaller villages and cities around here as well. And if you would like to, you can also go to this much larger city of Al-Awan. I've never been here myself, but I've heard that it rivals Beyweth in many fineries, in culture and art. Although I do believe they're a little less inclusive of all the different races that you may find around here. Unfortunately, I don't know all that much about Al-Awan, but it is supposed to be quite a sight to see. Oh yes, Bukalab up here. This is another city that is a bit exclusive because they are separated from the rest of the wilds by these mountains here and the city of Sugol. They mostly get their resources from people across the sea, or they will sail down here from the Bay of Hapshi down to the city of Al-Awan. So these two cities, they have a decent trade route there, but it is a bit difficult to get here from anywhere else. I suppose if you really wished, you could come down here to Al-Awan and get a ship, travel up to Bukalab, but that is quite out of your way. It sounds as though you are mostly traveling to the city of Beyweth, right? That's what I thought. So, as you can see, really all of your different routes to Beyweth have their own dangers, but as long as you have someone who is familiar with the Sahar Pass, that's probably your best bet. You are traveling with a guide, right? Oh, good. Sometimes newcomers, they prefer to save some money, and so they don't hire a guide through the pass. And usually we don't ever see those newcomers again. Now, unfortunately, sometimes even when you do have a guide, things can be a bit unpredictable. But as long as you have a guide, I'm sure that you'll be perfectly fine. Now, how much do you know about the city of Beyweth that you're going to? Okay, it is quite a wonder. You know, you're walking through these treacherous deserts with very little vegetation and precious little water, and then all of a sudden, out on the horizon, you see rising these very large walls of stone and condensed sand in sort of an angled shape. And there inside is the bustling oasis of Beyweth. You see, they have one of the most powerful water sages that this region has ever seen, at least in my lifetime. She's been around for a very, very long time. An unnaturally long life. Likely because of her connection with water. At least that's what people say. But she has created a beautiful city of art, of learning, and a place to be safe, a place to be accepted. Yes, there are any number of races there. Lizard folk, orcs, sand elves, sand goblins, humans, of course. They're all welcome there. And half-breeds like myself. Sometimes in other places of the world it can be a bit difficult to fit in when you have one foot into two different worlds. But in Beyweth, things like that don't matter. Not as much anymore. Would you like to see a map of Beyweth? Yes, of course. Now, mapping regions definitely has its difficulties, but at least with a city, you're in a bit closer proximity, and so it is not quite as difficult to be accurate. Unless, of course, cities constantly are changing and buildings come and go, things like that. But this record of Beyweth that I have here, I just completed it last year, so unless there has been quite a lot of change since then, we can be relatively sure that this will be rather accurate to what you will see when you actually go to the city. Here, let's take a look. Here we are. Now, as you can see, just from first glance, Beyweth is a much, much larger city than you have here in Ebonwatch. As I said, it is a rather central hub in the land of the wilds. It's a place that many different peoples from many different places come to trade and to learn, to worship, and to find solace from the harshness of the wilds. Now you can see here, Beyweth is known for its very large, sturdy, and very tall walls. It is one of the safest places probably in the entire wilds, thanks to these walls. 8 different walls creating a very large surface area here. Now, the city of Beyweth, it is located on top of a plateau. So you have quite a few cliffs here, and the only places to get up these cliffs safely is using a few different natural ladder systems. I think these have been carved right out of the cliffs. Now, you could try to scale these cliffs along the sides as well, of course, but that would be very, very difficult. And, of course, take quite a lot of time, and you would most likely be spotted by people up here before you ever reach the top anyway. So, going up these stairs here, they're rather wide stairs. Of course, they look quite small on the map, but they are wide and easily traversed. And I do believe that they have ramps on the sides as well, so it is accessible for anyone who may need to enter the city. Then, before you actually get to the walls, you'll come into a few different settlements and places around here. You can see over here there are some fields and farmers and some craftsmen, people like that help to supply Beyweth with some of its necessities. But then there are also tents around here, some of which are merchants who come out of Beyweth to sell things to those who are traveling into the city. And some of them are also, perhaps belong to refugees or other people who are fleeing from the dangers of the wilds. But then you travel and you get to these very large, formidable, insurpassable walls. And there are little gateways here that will allow you into the city. And then you will travel on a bridge across yet another series of cliffs. Yes, it's sort of a stacked system here. So you have the cliffs before you even get to the walls. Then you have the walls. Then you have a moat of the water around Beyweth. And then you have another series of cliffs. As I said, this is one of the safest places in the entire wilds. I'm sure you can understand why. And after you traverse these bridges, then you get to the city of Beyweth. Now, Beyweth, as I said, is surrounded by quite a lot of water here between the walls and the cliffs. Beyweth is home to one of the most powerful water sages in the entire wilds. This is where she lives, in the center here. This is known as the Temple of Life. In Beyweth, the main deity that is worshipped there is a goddess of water. I'm sure that's not too hard to believe, seeing as in the wilds, water is a precious commodity. And the water sages and those who have been blessed by the goddess of water are very, very highly revered. So this is the Temple of Life there, where they worship this life giver, the goddess of water. And then you have a university over here as well. This is where, obviously, the majority of study and research and economics, engineering, things like that are studied here in this central area of the city of Beyweth. And then around here, these are where most of the well-to-do merchants and nobles and other people live in the city of Beyweth. But there are also a few places around here of note. This is a very prestigious guild of merchants. That's where all of the higher-up traders are able to come and trade their wares for very good prices, get resources, get more training, and they have access to some of the more foreign delegates and places like that. But all of this area here, you will find some very fine shops. And then along this area, there are quite a few smaller tents and smaller buildings that offer a beautiful array of exotic and rare and expensive goods that you can expect from the wealth of Beyweth. So this is a very, very popular market here. Of course, it is also very highly patrolled so that the merchants there feel that their goods are safe. Then over here, this fascinating building, this is known as the Mages Guild. This is a place where mages and wizards and other magic users can come to perfect their arts, to find a master, to find perhaps jobs around the city where a magic user is needed. Many different things that you can do here at the Mages Guild. And of course purchase supplies, magical supplies and things like that. And then right next door to the Mages Guild, this little building here is a very, very well-renowned alchemist. She can make you almost anything that your heart desires. And of course a rune crafting shop as well, right next door. So many different, very useful, magical-related buildings and resources in this little area over here. Now over here, on this side of the city, also quite a lot of very prestigious places. This is known as the Fighters Guild. This is a place where you can come and train to learn different forms of fighting, be that melee, be it hand-to-hand, be it ranged combat, anything like that. And they also often hold tournaments and things like that too, to celebrate the art of fighting, protection, strength, things like that. And next door you have the Adventurers Guild. Guild. Now, this is a place that you can go if you are someone who craves a quest or a journey or something of the sort. This is a place where you can find different quests and, you know, people to pay you for doing different things, as well as getting, you know, different supplies and things for a very long journey. This is an excellent place to go. And then this over here. This series of buildings here is one of the finest areas in the entire world to receive weapons. A very, very prestigious weapons shop there. Some of the best crafters in all of the wilds sell their wares there. Let's see, what else in this little section? Of course, a brewery. There are a few different ones around the city, but this one is quite prestigious. They brew a very, very special type of beverage. Perhaps you've heard of it. It's called raki. It is a very well-known and very sought-after beverage in the wilds. Oh, yes, you have heard of it. Wonderful. Well, I hope that you were able to sample the raki from Beyweth. It is the finest in all of the wilds, supposedly. Let's see. Here's another guild over here. This one is a little bit more secretive. It's where you can learn things like the art of stealth. I believe that there's actually a bit of an initiation before you're welcomed into this guild, but it is quite a prestigious place. Now this is the Museum of Beyweth here, a place where you can see different, you know, artifacts from the city of Beyweth, as well as from the ruins of the city right next to Beyweth. Yeah. The ruins of Hamala. That is a city that used to be here, again, who knows, hundreds of thousands of years ago, perhaps. And Beyweth was built basically almost on the ashes of that city. So there's quite a lot to be discovered there. That's most likely why your friend Zenith wishes to go there. And then, of course, over here there are a few other places of interest. This here is an artist's guild. Some of the finest minds, creative minds in the wilds, create their masterpieces there for the people to enjoy, to, you know, sell and teach as well. The Artists Guild. Many other smaller places around here too. There's a jeweler, an herbalist. And this is a very well-known apothecary. She is responsible for quite a lot of the healing of ailments and things like that in the city. So, anything else that you may like to know about the city of Beyweth? Meeting the High Priestess. Well, I mean, all are welcome to the Temple of Life. Of course, it is heavily guarded, you know, for the protection of those who come to worship or sacrifice or learn. But as far as meeting the High Priestess, I actually am not sure of the process of that. It would most likely, you know, she makes some public appearances, of course, but to actually meet her one-on-one, I'm really not sure what that would entail. But, I mean, going to the Temple of Life would, of course, be a good place to start. Anyway, so there is, I suppose, much more that we could discuss of the fascinating city of Beyweth, but at least that gives you a bit of an idea of what to expect when you travel to this city. A beautiful city, to be sure, don't you think? Also, one of the largest cities in the wilds. For the most part, there are, you know, there are settlements here and there in the wilds. There are also, you know, many different tribes of people who are a bit more nomadic, but Beyweth is quite the hub in a lot of the region of the wilds. Now, some of the ruins that we have found, they indicate that they may have also been very, very large cities. Some of them perhaps even to rival the size and the beauty of Beyweth. But, of course, we can't be altogether sure because they are, well, ruins. But there is much still to be learned about both the history of this region and, of course, the terrain as well. Which is why I will keep working. Keep traveling, keep recording, keep hiring people to find out exactly what this place may be. It's a lot of work collecting all of these records, making sure that I am as accurate as possible. But it's worth it, to me at least. Hopefully my maps will be helpful to generations to come as well. And you never know, maybe a few generations from now, people will find that the measurements that I've taken are actually not all that accurate, and they'll be able to improve on what I've started here. We'll see. We'll see. Cartography is an art that really can only go up from here. Who knows what the future will hold? Anyway, here I am rambling on about different places. I apologize that I don't have a map of the Sahar Pass, but was there any other map that you would like to purchase today? The map of Beyweth? Of course, absolutely, absolutely. That will be very useful as you are traveling in the city. Yes, yes. Now this is, as I'm sure you can tell, something that took me a very, very, very long time to make, so obviously the price reflects that. Getting a good, accurate, and if I do say so myself, beautifully decorated map is not something you can just find anywhere. So, generally, a detailed map like this, I sell for 15 pieces of gold. I know, but if you think about the time and the effort and the years of my life that I have spent creating accurate maps like this, I think you'll understand that that's a fair price. And I guarantee that you will not find another map more accurate anywhere in the wilds than the ones that you will find in my shop. Alright, tell you what. What if you take the map of Beyweth, and I did see you eyeing this map of the wilds as well. What if I give you both of them for 25 gold? How does that sound? A bit of a discount instead of the 30. You drive a hard bargain, but I think we can agree on 22. Yes, I think we'll take that. Thank you. I hope that those are quite useful to you in your travels, wherever else it is that you may find yourself. Just Beyweth. That's understandable. Beyweth is quite the hub, as I have said. But you never know. There may be cause to go further south or to any of these other places, really. You never know where the world might take you. Alright, well, here you are. Ooh, would you like me to roll them up for you? Of course, here. There we are. There's one of them. I won't roll it too tightly. Now, you can always roll it more tightly, but this will, keep it safe while not making it to curl too much. Alright. Then the map of the wilds. There. You know what? I'll just stick this one inside of this one. That way you can keep them both safe together, all right? All right, here you are. As I said, I hope that those are helpful to you. Yes, you're welcome. I don't always stay open later. I don't particularly enjoy it, but for someone who is interested in the art of cartography, it's always a pleasure to chat. But I do have quite a lot of work that I still need to get through, looking through some of these records that I've come across recently, so if there's anything else that I can help you with? No? Alright, well, I wish you a good evening and a safe journey through the Sahar Pass. I'm sure with the guide it will be no trouble at all. And I wish you an excellent stay in the city of Beyweth. Alright, well, enjoy your journey, traveler.